Happy Friday, everybody. I am very excited to join you today. So welcome to all of you joining. My name is Dr. Melissa Gallagher. I'm a naturopathic physician, and my specialty is utilizing natural health and wellness resources like herbs and techniques like we're going to demonstrate today to keep you healthy and safe, especially during this crazy time of staying at home and quarantining. So welcome to all of you joining. We have a very large international community that comes together and joins in this live community. So welcome to all of you on the live, and for all of you watching on the replay, comment down below, let me know where you're tuning in from. And I'm very excited today. I decided that we need a little de-stressing, and you and I are going to de-stress together. I'm going to share with you some tips, some techniques, and we are going to go over the news like we always do. There's two parts to our live show: the news, tidbits, and really key pertinent information, details I think we need to know. And then I'm going to dive into some techniques I've shown you already on the live, but also other ones that I haven't and want to share with you because I think we all need it. I found that I was really feeling quite stressed out reading some of the news that I wanted to report to you today. So partially this is my own kind of selfish requirement, but also we've had a Friday morning already. We've lost the iPad and we've had a meltdown, and we are wearing jammies upstairs for homeschooling. So happy Friday, everybody. So welcome to all of you. Hi from Texas. We've got Gloria in Georgia. Hey, Gloria. Jenna and JP Soso up in Brooklyn, and Kay Jefferson in Texas. Good morning, everybody. And Alicia in Florida. So I'm really excited to utilize our live show today to really instill and implement some very good de-stressing techniques. And these are going to be things we can do together. I will share with you now what I want you to gather, and then I'll go through the news, and then I'll repeat this again for all of you joining us. So I want to make sure that you have grabbed some tissues. Okay, so grab some tissues. If you have nasal spray, grab your nasal spray. Any oils, kind of relaxation oils that you have, grab those. For those of you who already have level 4 cream, and I sell this in our store, so I can link to that for all of you. But grab your level 4 cream, or if you have your the hemp balm, the herbal intense balm, grab that. Any of you who have Rescue Remedy, grab that as well. And I'm really excited. I'm opening this baby up. And then let's see, what else do you need to grab? Oh, and then the other thing I want you to grab, because we are going to do some lymphatic exercises today, because that's very supportive of healing and relaxation. The one thing that I want you to grab is some oil. I happen to grab my Indie Lee. I use this a lot for my draining. But I purposely not worn any type of like makeup here on my cheeks. I'm going to share with you some DIY sinus draining. We're going to come up here to the upper sinus cavity, and we're also going to do some ear draining. I'll take my earrings off. And then also the other thing I want you to grab, if you have oregano oil. So I will kind of add those items into the description here. But so if you're excited about a DIY stress relief, give me a thumbs up. Let me know that this is something you're interested in, excited about. I wanted to kind of change up our format a little bit. And let's dive right on into the news. So we globally are at 2.1 million cases. We increased in a day 63,000 cases, which is pretty phenomenal. That's, essentially surpassing some of the countries that have individuals with this virus. So I'm trying to be really cognizant of not getting dinged here on YouTube. So I can't say the virus name, but you guys know what we're talking about. Some interesting news that has popped up. Wuhan, China has readjusted their death toll and literally doubled it overnight. They added 4,000 more cases. Partially, they're saying that they might not have been recorded or tested. Who knows? But that definitely does increase the extensive nature of it. And it could very well, if we went back, and I know people will, they'll go back and they'll look at what were we and the World Health Organization, the CDC's there and here, what were they looking at in terms of the morbidity mortality rate. And originally it was 3.2. That might increase to 5 or 6%, which is pretty substantial. And we all could have, should have, would have responded better. So that's just really kind of an interesting point. I'm going to cover today, I printed out the guidelines. So many of you know, I've got Post-its in here. This is probably the most basic form of medical health related data. It's not even data. It's just like a PowerPoint with not a lot of whole information. So I'm going to go over this, what this means, what questions I have from it, and questions about some strategies that weren't even listed. But I also want to highlight some information. So many of you know I lived in Japan for a year, and so I got some news about Japan. So they have hotels over there. They're like nighttime hotels. So they have capsule hotels. They have a lot of places where people can stay outside the home, because a lot of times families, they're like 3 or 4 generations that live in a home together. So they have these hotels that couples can stay at. So they have created a Corona divorce refuge for spouses that are close to considering a divorce because of the staying at home, and they've allowed them some space. So I thought that was kind of interesting, because I know we're all kind of in close quarters. I know a lot of people are getting frustrated or annoyed and just feel like they need some space. Japan is definitely implementing that. So I want to applaud them for helping families be healthier and safer. The other thing that I want to highlight is that there seems to be some major discrepancies between the rural and the big city hospitals and health systems in terms of the amount of money they're getting from the relief or the stimulus, the CARES Act. So the question is, and I've been reading more about these rural communities that, they have 15 beds and maybe 3 of them are ICU beds, or 25 beds total in the hospital system. And now all of them are maxed out, and all of them have been turned into ICU units, and they are poorly understaffed. They've run out of medicine to sedate people. I mean, could you imagine being intubated or on a ventilator, not sedated? That's horrifying. And they're having to consult with the larger medical facilities, and are basically doing some really crazy, innovative, on-the-fly type of medical care. So your level of care would be different if you were in a rural setting or community setting versus a bigger city setting. And that's something we need to be cognizant of, because now we're starting to see some of these areas that are more rural, that are smaller based communities, they're going to be hit harder, and the impact will be greater. The level of care will be different. They don't have any type of testing going on. They don't have enough PPE. They don't have enough equipment. They don't have enough of the resources they need. The other thing that I caught wind of from my entrepreneurial group, one of my networking groups that I am connected with online, one of my guys that I've networked with for now 16 years, he owns a business in St. Petersburg, and he just posted, like, anybody having any challenges getting, the employee side, the small business loan access or small business relief. And I've seen a lot of my friends highlighting that, they're trying to get access. Some of my friends, their CPAs, have done it. And what has come out of some conversations is that it basically, for a small business, it really depends on your banker and not necessarily the banking institution. But what did come out, which is very disturbing, is that the banker themselves will get 5% of whatever the small business loan or percentage of what they get. So if you are, a small business that has a franchise of 5 locations, and you've been allocated, let's say, $60,000, and this is over 3 months to keep all your staff, all your operating costs at level, 5% of that goes to the banker. That's kind of crazy, because I don't remember hearing about that. And so the bankers are making money off of this, which seems kind of crazy. The other little tidbit of news is that the antibody tests that the US had ordered, they are stuck in some red tape right now in China. So we are not going to be seeing those anytime soon. There's some bureaucracy going on. So I know everybody's trying to get the antibody testing because it's another form of being able to identify who is okay, who can go back. And also for therapeutic measures, we can utilize their plasma and do plasma infusions to the individuals who are sick, and there's automatic antibody acceptance. So by the way, I'm drinking my stress relief tea in my caffeine and quarantine mug, or yeah, caffeine and quarantine. So totally need it today. The other thing that has come out, two things, just a little news that passed by way I thought I'd share. Apparently, Michael Cohen is getting released early from the jail. Not quite sure why, but I think it has something to do with the virus itself. He gets a 14-day quarantine, then he gets released early. So that, in comparison to this story, is even more disturbing. We have thousands of unaccompanied immigrant minors that are in these centers, and they're all over the states. We have them here in Georgia, they're in Florida, they're everywhere. 39 of these under 18 minors, 39 of 69 that are based in Chicago at this one facility, 39 of these kids have tested positive with the virus. And they're trying to figure out what to do. There's been no substantial testing. We don't know the details that the workers have passed us on, but we're starting to see it get into these detention centers and these facility centers. They're hitting the jails. They're hitting the populations where there's not a lot of social distancing happening. And so I just think, as a mom, my heart breaks, just the whole situation. Not going to get into politics, but as just a parent, seeing kids without their parents, and when they're sick, I mean, kids do get, despite what governors are saying, like Florida governor said nobody under the age of 25 has come down with it or died of it. That's totally false. But kids do have coughing, sore throat. They do have sometimes diarrhea with this. And so their experience of it, they're by themselves. They're not with their parents. And that's just heartbreaking. And to that note, there was, you'll hear the story too. There was an individual, an adult in one of these immigrant custody camps. He was set to have a hearing, and he's tested positive and is in a full-blown state of this being really bad, with limited care. And he was called to a hearing, and the judge would not put off the hearing. And the guard said he can't even talk and say his name. So they actually had to switch to a telephone video conference. And even then, he did not have the lung capacity to actually respond to questions. So that's kind of insane. And that's where we're at. So Dale asked, antibody testing from China, ? So, all of our equipment, the test, the plastic pieces, the swabs, all of those are parts, and they all come from other areas, other countries. And at this point, Italy, Spain, and France, some other manufacturing locations, and Germany, they are still down. So our route now is China. And so, yeah, I think it was 100,000 in total that were stuck there. So, so it's kind of crazy. Oh, thanks everybody. Pat, please give me a thumbs up, share. So I want to go over this. This is what was released yesterday by the federal government, and it's simply opening up America again. And, the idea is that there are some approaches. They have kind of different phases, but the way to enter phase 1 is to do what they call gating. And so they call it state or regional gating criteria. And there's really 3 bullet points that they make. You have to assess symptoms. So there needs to be a downward trajectory of any type of flu-like illnesses. This virus would fall in that category, or virus-like symptoms. And they need to see that for 14 days. So there needs to be a downward decline in the symptoms, a downward decline in the cases that are documented, as well as cases of positive tests in a 2-week time frame. And then they want to see hospitals being able to treat all these patients without ICU or ventilation, and also a robust testing program in place for the at-risk categories like healthcare providers, and using these antibody tests. Well, the questions that I have is, what is the percentage of decrease do we need to see? It says downward trajectory, but what is that? 1%, 5%, 25%, 100%? And then the question is tests on cases, a downward trajectory of positive tests, and then also in the hospital category, a robust testing program. It doesn't say the quantity. It doesn't give us any type of guideline in terms of that percentage. It goes over some of the additional things that they want to happen, like contact tracing and testing, who would be screened. They want to be able to make sure that the healthcare capacity has PPE and they can handle the surge, and that the ICUs are okay and are able to meet capacity. And part of the plan, I was happy to see this, is that there's a plan to protect the high-risk facilities like the senior care facilities, which I reported about yesterday, about the 17 that were found in the morgue. One, they tried to put in a shed and then pulled them back in and put them in the morgue. These facilities are highly understaffed. They're not paying well. There's high turnover. And honestly, they're not trained for this type of care. And so if these people were at a hospital, they'd all be in ICU, but at a nursing home or assisted living facility, long-term care facility, they don't have that. So they then, kind of talk about how to prepare and how to be ready for the plan. So this is the proposal. So it's a proposed plan approach. And basically it's based on up-to-date data. It's the goal is to mitigate the risk of resurgence so that we don't have another spike. And that's what they're projecting, that we'll have 2 or 3 of these spikes, depending on how well we do this first phase. Currently, are we testing? Do we have antibodies? How are our drug trials doing? All that stuff. These plans, this will be statewide or county by county, but the governors are in control. And so the governors of each state will be determining based on their specific data, and then also potentially regionally, areas. So we might have tri-states, multi-states involved in that because of commuting into bigger cities or whatnot. Now they've kind of identified guidelines, like everybody needs to practice normal, good hygiene. And then if you feel sick, stay at home. That's a duh. So we already are knowing that. We already are doing that. Employers, this is really key. So this is that kind of beginning thing. They're recommending for employers to develop guidance or to practice guidance that's being given out by the government, state, and local regulations. So social distancing and protective equipment, temperature checking, that's a new one. I think this is the first time we've seen this introduced. Testing, isolating, and contact tracing. We aren't testing as many as we should. Projections are we're at about 75,000 tests a day. We need to be at 100. We need to be at 1 million. And some I've just read recently have said we need to be at 2 million to catch up for a period of time. That's just not going to happen. And so the testing is my big question mark. And then isolating is the other factor we haven't really implemented. So I think we'll start to hear governors and local municipality leaders identify how do we isolate? Are we isolating people in hotels? Are we isolating them in convention centers that have already been set up? I don't know, but that's kind of what's in here. But there's nothing. It's just like a bullet point. And then contact tracing is what I highlighted last week. This is an example of contact tracing done by the CDC in Illinois, based on just two major outbreaks from 2 events. And this is how detailed it gets. It gets dotted line of all these interactions, and then the black is the fatality. It basically was a birthday party and a funeral, and then there was some cross interlacing at a church, and then from that, it's like 80 people. all were involved or touched. And so that requires a lot of staff. That's epidemiology or epidemiologists. That is a whole slew of professionals that have to be in that. There's no sort of guidelines on who those people are, where the money is coming from to pay them for that. Talks about sanitation, using disinfectant, and then also business travel is going to be something. There is a comment on here, and this was my big question mark, so I put Post-it notes on all these. It says, monitor workforce for indicative symptoms. Do not allow symptomatic people to physically return to work until cleared by a medical provider. Well, what do we do with the asymptomatic cases? If we were testing, we would know who's positive. What's the guideline for asymptomatic? That's not on here. And that if somebody is testing positive, that they have to be cleared by the medical provider. So that's the kind of guide. And then it wants employers to develop and implement policies and procedures for workforce contact tracing following employee positive testing. You know, that's a big question mark as well. I mean, you have, let's say, like this pork plant. They have nobody on staff that knows how to do that. They're going to have to hire people. And how are they going to do that when they're already losing money because the plant's been shut down? Okay, so this just covers like getting the preparation, what all needs to happen before we go into phase one of this they call gating. So gating is kind of putting up all these parameters, doing all of these things, testing, antibody being one of them. Saliva, blood, however we do that. Then the isolation, separation, quarantining those who have tested positive, asymptomatic or symptomatic. And then we also do contact tracing and start to isolate all those people. That we are not doing effectively as a nation. So that piece has to be what they're saying. That piece has to be ready to go and being implemented before we move into phase one. So phase one is for the states and regions that are doing all of that selectively and collectively. Again, there's no quantifiable number. Like, let's say you're California and you have, umpteenth times a million people that another state has. What is the difference between those states, and what's the quantity that threshold of testing we need to meet? Is it a certain percentage of the population? We don't know. Okay, so phase one, all vulnerable individuals should be sheltering in place, and households with these should be aware that returning to work where you can't social distance, you could be bringing the disease back home. That's another duh. We do know that already. In public, phase one, the public would be a park, a recreation area, shopping, that we need to maximize physical distance, and social settings of 10 or more should be avoided. So they're kind of capping that social gatherings of 10. And then groups of no more than 10, like you shouldn't be socializing in any more than 10. Now this is phase one, we're not there, but this is when we get there. And then really minimized non-essential business travel or any type of travel. So that's that, and that's for individuals. So they have each one, it's individual, and then there's onus on employers, right? So they have the goal, phase one, keep encouraging telework. So phase one, a lot of us will still be working at home. If possible, return to work in phases. So companies might have some phasing guidelines. Closing any common areas like the water cooler, the coffee area, cafeterias, gyms that might be on site, closing those and adhering to the strict protocols. That again is going to fall into corporate-based gatherings, meetings. There's still going to be a lot of teleconferencing, Zooming, all that. Again, minimizing essential travel. And there are strong recommendations to consider special accommodations for the members that are in the vulnerable category. And at the end, they actually make an appendix of who do we call vulnerable. So 1, elderly is what they list. 2, individuals with serious underlying health conditions, including high blood pressure, chronic lung disease, diabetes, obesity, asthma, and those whose immune system is compromised, such as chemotherapy for cancer and other conditions that require such therapy. So just going over this plan. And I think the reality is that we are not anywhere near phase 1 by any means. So here's phase 1, specific types of employers. Okay, I had a lot of questions on this one. So, okay, schools and organized youth activities. So daycares, camps, like we're entering summer camp. Most of us already, schools are done. That's been declared. But phase 1, schools will continue to remain closed. So let's say we don't get our gating activities. We don't have all the right testing. We don't have the antibodies because maybe they're still held up in red tape in China, or we aren't doing contact tracing, and we are not quarantining and isolating people. Then there's a possibility schools will continue to be closed when fall season rolls around. So then it says visits to senior facilities are going to be prohibited. So that we're limiting, again, contact with our seniors, which makes it very important that we keep in contact daily, weekly, video calls, notes and packages, and just contact with our loved ones who are in these settings. They are most vulnerable for feeling completely isolated. Phase 1, also large venues will be operating under strict distancing protocols. So what they considered were large venues, sitting down dining, movie theaters, sporting venues, and places of worship, churches. Okay, so that phase 1, they may be operating, but there's going to be some strict protocols. The question is, what are those protocols? Is it that every third or fourth person in a church pew is social distancing in like every other pew? Is it, we have college football, but really only like a quarter of the stadium is full, or there's nobody in the stadium, we all just watch at home? That's a big question. Okay, then elective surgeries in phase 1 can resume on an outpatient basis. So there might be outpatient facilities. I've heard talk about women that are pregnant and moving, just even the birthing process, to an outpatient facility, so they don't have to worry about checking into hospital. Gyms, it said, can open if they adhere to strict social distancing and sanitation protocols. Bars will remain closed. So my question is specific for these employers. How are they testing these people? Are they required to be taking their temperature? Is there PPE that's provided for these employees at the employer location? And what is the safety? What type of sanitation, what type of safety measures are taken? Okay, so phase 2. So that's if, they're doing the gating and they've gone through phase 1 and things are going okay. Again, we have no idea of moving from phase 1 to phase 2, what percentages, are there certain testing percentages we need to meet? Again, is there more 14 days, like the initial kind of communication about, symptoms? So there's a lot, just really, really vague, very, very vague. I don't really understand how you move from phase 1 to phase 2. So that was my big one question. But it said, for states and regions with no evidence of a rebound, and that satisfy the gating criteria a second time. So a rebound would be that second spike. Well, we're expecting a second spike potentially in the fall. So if phase 1 doesn't work, they start over again. If phase 1 works, then I guess they phase into this. As long as they continue to do the testing, antibody, there's isolation. So I guess that kind of answers, but it's very vague. So I think I'm going with that. But, and my question was, what is rebound evidence? So it says, with no evidence of a rebound, what's that? Do we need a rebound where it's a 25% reduction? Do we need how do we qualify a rebound? Because we will continue to have cases until we eradicate this, or at least minimize and have herd immunity and all these other things that are criteria for us surviving in this mode. Okay, so phase 2, individuals, non-essential travel can resume in public up to 50 people. So phase 2 is loosening a little bit more. We might be able to have some birthday parties again and things like that. Phase 2 on the employer side, they're continuing to push telework. So more working at home. The common areas are still closed. Non-essential travel can resume. So we're starting to see travel changes there. And then again, needing to have special requirements for people that work there. Let's talk about phase 2 and the specific types of employers, who can open and who cannot. Schools and organized youth activities can reopen in phase 2. So if they limit that second peak or they get past it, then that would be, okay, schools are okay to open. Senior care facilities and hospitals still closed down. Large venues can operate, but there still needs to be social distancing protocol. So that still includes the dining, sit-down dining, movie theater, sporting venues, and places of worship. Elective surgeries can be both inpatient and outpatient. So now you can have elective surgeries in the hospital setting without risk. Gyms can remain open, and bars, they could open bars up in phase 2 with standing room occupancy where it's available and appropriate. Okay, so Vive says those indications need to be more specific because as of now, most people aren't taking it seriously. Absolutely. Linda, yeah, I totally agree. It was weird seeing the Pope give Easter mass with no one hardly there. I know. I love that guy. I love how inspiring he is. He has such a nice message. Okay, so phase 3. This is for states and regions with no evidence of a rebound and that satisfy the gating criteria a third time. So testing, which we're not doing. We've seen a 50% drop in a week. So like just domestically, we're failing. So the US is just completely failing on the testing. We don't even at this point qualify for that gating, let alone isolating, we're not doing, and then contact tracing, which does require a lot of professionals. And there was an individual that wrote an opinion piece. It was an opinion/proposal piece for JAMA, the Journal of American Medical Association. He proposed that they take the first year of medical students, so all these kids that they've been accepted to all these great medical schools, odds are they're not going to go to school for this first year. And he said, well, let's just create this like national deployment and turn them into contact tracers, throw them in the field, have them managing testing sites, and throw them in. And for that first year, that's their year of training. I thought that was really interesting. It's an actual, I think he is in Tulane. I want to say he is a professor. No, it's Johns Hopkins. A professor of, it wasn't an epidemiology professor, but he was a professor at Johns Hopkins University, like the medical school. And his whole thing was, let's just use all these awesome, brilliant people and let's throw them into the field, get their feet wet. They'll obviously we'll have more legs on the ground to do the essential stuff. Like this is going to be critical. So, okay. So phase 3, that's what is proposed. Phase 3, basically individuals vulnerable in phase 3 are able to be out and about, but should practice distance and take precautions. Low risk categories should minimize time spent in crowded environments. So even still, there's an idea of being more safer. Phase 3 employers resume unrestricted staffing. So phase 3 is where things on the business side potentially go back to normal with people being on site. The real Charlie Orange, why can a sporting arena be open but no gathering of 50 or more? Sports arenas are cesspools of germs. Yeah, I totally agree. It's about money. I mean, let's just be realistic. I mean, I think the challenge, as I reported earlier, I don't know when you came on, but we see small businesses. I used to, and some of my old employees, I saw messages yesterday and the day before. They're stuck and they're out of work and they're self-employed. I used to hire a lot of independent contractors, and many of them just are not equipped to handle this. And yet they've applied and they haven't gone through, but like Papa John's did. And I'm sure WWE Wrestling is going to get some benefits. So there's definitely some craziness, and the protests are like, that's a whole zone of of craziness. I don't even know why people would do that. But again, if you're not taking it seriously and you think this is some hoax or it's not going to affect you, they're putting their lives at risk. Kanisha Jones, why don't they utilize other doctors such as MDs? It's an excellent question. I think part of it's not even licensure. They don't even recognize us as any type of frontliner here in the US. Canada for sure, New Zealand, Australia. But I did see one of my professionals get called up in California. They have their own medical coding. They're in their own category. Insurance is different. I mean, everything is very different, operates differently. And I had one of them who's been called up. I don't know what that means. And I don't really know I think she's a nurse is her main background, which makes sense. But, I don't know. So it is just baffling. But so phase 3 would be when we could also go see our seniors. And so phase 3 is when hospitals can resume and senior facilities. We can see our older generation. That to me is insane. It just breaks my heart. I'm so grateful my grandma is not around. I would be a disaster if I couldn't see my grandmother in a facility, or there are many of you who have parents in these facilities and loved ones. I mean, we all do. And to think that we might be in phase 3 a year from now. I mean, that's the reality. And we have no guidance here. So large venues are back open, but it says under limited physical distancing protocols. The football, I think about football. How do we do that? How do we tailgating? I mean, go to any football arena, college or pro, and there are people everywhere tailgating. I mean, you bounce between tailgate parties and there's just gatherings. I don't know. And think about the 4th of July, think about New Year's, Labor Day, Memorial Day, all of these normal traditional social festivities. Those aren't going to happen. And so that's it. Those are the 3 phases. Lots of questions. There's no sort of specifics about, I left phase 1 out. No specifics about quantity of tests, thresholds from moving, what quantifiable data. I mean, when you think about it, any business has to put together quantifiable data. You have a sales plan or any type of plan of attack, you have to post data. This has nothing. So we should expect more, hopefully coming out. And I'm curious to see Governor Cuomo. He tends to be the one who has a little bit more organization to this. So I'm curious to see what he's got. So in Damask, it's heartbreaking because we need human connection. We absolutely do. Sheila, I took early retirement last July before worked 20 years clean on A&E. And if sporting arenas reopen, then so can large openings. It's the same if it's worse for sporting arenas. I agree. Okay, so this is our plan. Doesn't sound like a lot, but I think we'll probably get more details. I know there's a lot more questions. Particularly testing. I mean, that hands down, we need more testing. Okay, so let's go into our DIY friends, because I know that's stressing me out. I'm sure it's stressing you all out. And I'm going to share with you some things that we can do to de-stress. So first of all, I'm going to share with you, yesterday I mentioned this, the Bach Rescue Remedy. I just take this. This is my emotional de-stressor. And I'm very excited. This morning, my clematis, I have clematis plants. It opened up. So I'm just going to put this on under my tongue. I'm going to hold it there for a little bit. And this is a rescue remedy. It just kind of eases in. I call it my Teflon. It's very, very calming, very soothing to emotions. It has rock rose, it has clematis, it has Star of Bethlehem. It also has impatiens and cherry plum. Bach flower remedies are very good for just soothing the emotional side of things. When the brain is racing, we're feeling that emotional overload. This is very powerful. So that's a good kind of stress relieving tactic that you can employ. The second is I want to just open up our sinuses. So this is partly, we're going to do some lymph motivating. I'm going to take my earrings out now. We're going to do some lymph draining. We're going to do a Thymus Tap. And I really want to kind of open up your lymphatics in your face. Partly that will also drain fluid. We have lymphatics in the brain, and that will help drain that. It'll help kind of clear things, clear your mind. Lymphatics is also a connection to our emotions. So the emotional flow, things that we're holding on to things, we're kind of stuffing things away, we'll notice a buildup of lymphatic fluid. So, you know, the mantras that I employ, I've talked to you guys about this a lot, you know, all is well in my world. One of the other things that I like is I go with the flow. And this is one of these things, we don't know what this is going to look like. And so we just need to go with the flow, and we need to keep ourselves safe, keep our family safe, work on ourselves, and just go with the flow. And again, yeah, real Charlie Orange, the stress suppressed tea. That's what I'm drinking. It arrived yesterday. I almost forgot. Got to go steep it. Yes. Okay. Come back with your steep tea and we'll keep going. Yeah. So the Bach drops are fantastic. I call it my Teflon. So next up, get your sinus spray. We're going to do 2 sinus sprays each nose, and you want your tissue. And before I do this, I want to kind of tell you the best way to do this. I do 1 spray each nose, and then I breathe in and kind of pull the fluid in. So you never want to blow your nose immediately, because you're going to push fluid into your ear canal, your eustachian tubes. So this just really helps kind of open up the sinuses. It starts to clear out any debris, any allergens, any gunk from the night before. So let me, okay, this thing's almost on its in. So I'm going to do this. And so I breathe in while I'm doing it. Sorry, my left side's a little bit more congested today. And I just kind of dab and, okay. You'll notice it goes to the back. You're going to feel all sorts of kind of stuff in the back. You might get some nasal drainage, and we'll do that again. Okay. And then just dab your nose. Okay. Next step, I follow up with my pink Himalayan salt. They have 2 versions that you can grab online. One is the peppermint oil, pretty intense hit. And then lavender. I've used the lavender as a calming. This is what I have by my bedside. And I just stick this right kind of at the base of my nostril. And I breathe in. Oh, it's good. So you have your saline, then you've got your pink Himalayan salt with aromatherapy, and it's really powerful. So and I breathe in and breathe out, because you pull that down to this back, you know, that stuff behind, there's like a little wall. It's kind of like behind a little curtain. So Linda says, oh Lord, I hate squirting things on my nose. Blech. It goes into my throat every time. Yeah, I totally feel you. This is just really good for clearing stuff out. It's a decongestant. It's an anti-inflammatory. And already, like, doing that, I feel like I can breathe better. Now up here, this is where a lot of people get sinus congestion, sinus headaches. They get fluid kind of stuck up here. It's also where we can have, you know, the furrow marks. We're holding a lot of tension. We're thinking hard. We're feeling stress. So we're going to address that too. Now, before we do that, what I'm going to have you do is, now we're going to do an activity, and you can do any of these together, separate, however you want. And I'll make sure that I post all of these links where you can grab this. But the level 4 cream is what we have in my store. This is the botanical herbal with, it's hard to see if you can see this on YouTube. See that cream in there? So it's this cream. It's actually, yeah. Oh, it's so fantastic. It has menthol and camphor. And I love this because it's very cooling, but it also has the 3-letter botanical that we love. This, in combination with the oregano oil, is what we're going to use to open up. We're going to start draining our ears. We're going to use on our carotids, both sides, to start to calm our body. So you can use the 3-letter botanical in this topically. It serves as both a topical nerve kind of block, but because our vascular channels to the brain are right there, we get absorption. And we can deliver some really soothing, powerful calming. So what I do is I grab just a good kind of swab. I don't want to flick anybody off, but I usually do it with my middle finger. Grab a swab, put this right here, and then, so I get all the oil right here. And when it's on your palm, it'll start to melt. That's totally normal because your body temperature will start to melt it. And then I grab my oregano oil. So I just kind of shake my oregano oil. And all we need is 1 drop. Okay, so you have your palm, 1 drop, boop, that's it. I might have gotten like a drop and a half, totally okay. And then you mix it in, smear, smear, smear. Okay, so mix, mix, mix. Give it a smell. Whew, it smells really very potent. This is like a Vicks Vapor Rub on steroids. Very powerful. Again, the 3-letter botanical is very healing, very powerful at calming. If you have any sinus pain, neck pain, it's great for also delivering muscle-related relief. So what I want to do is I'm going to take 2 or 3 fingers and go right behind the ear and do a little circle. So dab, dab, dab. And then you kind of start pulling down and coating the neck. And this is my new dress. I probably should have worn a different outfit, but I'll just do kind of my upper carotid, but you can literally drive all the way down. But you do over here, right behind the ear. The oregano oil will actually open up and decongest the synovial joint fluid. So, and then I'll also show you another technique, but you just kind of move this down. And a lot of times just that kind of action, you can get some postnasal drainage happening, but very, very powerful. The other thing too, you put a little bit right at this kind of little part right before the ear opening. You never put this inside your ear, but you do right here. You kind of do a little twirl, twirl, twirl on both sides. And that will also infuse the 3-letter botanical and the oregano oil. And then I just do on the outer part of my ear. And you know, our ear is a major reflexology point. It's an acupuncture point. So I just kind of do a pinching. And friends, even if you don't have this, you can do this activity right now. So just go along, kind of pinch, 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 all the way down. Okay. And then we start on the other ear. Just kind of pinch, pinch. And as you're doing that, you're applying the oil, the cream with the oregano oil. And just really move that well. Okay. Thanks, Linda. It's fun. It has pockets. I love dresses. They're easy. Okay, so and I just do a little swirl, and then you can literally do like a kind of swirling. If you have major ear popping, this will move it. Move your ears, and then move back here. And depending on the degree of congestion, or if you have like some swollen, lymph nodes up here, you can even do your whole entire neck. Now, the other thing too is I haven't really highlighted this a lot, but for any of you with Hashimoto's, what you can do is you can coat your whole entire thyroid, and this will help reduce any of the inflammation. You can topically dry that on it right on in. And my neck will get really red. I have really sensitive skin when I start rolling on it. But that is very powerful at just opening up. Now, the other thing, with whatever you got left over, you can slather on your bronchioles. You can slather on your chest. I'm not going to do that because of my dress. I'm just going to kind of wipe off my hands. And I got a little sanitizer here. Let me clean off my hands because now I'm going to share with you an exercise first on your hands that will relieve adrenal stress. Okay, so we're going to work on targeting those adrenals. And then we're going to do the Thymus Tap. And then we're going to end with some DIY lymphatic draining. Okay, so if you guys love this, love the DIY, give me a thumbs up. And let me just get a little bit more of this off my hands. It's pretty oily, so you may have to run wash your hands. Oh, such a great scent. Okay, now, so I want you to take your hands and let me see. Let me move this over so I can see myself a little bit better. Okay. So you got your hand. So, palm, the palm of your hand outward. What you're going to target is this little area right here. Can you guys see that? Let me make sure. Hold on. Let me see. Oh, shoot. Okay. There we go. This area. This is your adrenal gland. So this is a reflexology point. And what I want you to do is with your pointer finger, gently massage and rub that. If it's tender, like mine is always tender because my adrenals are always my kind of weaker gland, thyroid and adrenals, you just rub that. Okay. And that will help ease adrenal stress. Lindsay is coming in from London. Yay. Now, the other thing too is you really want to get a little bit more intense. You can, it's hard to see, but you can literally like work this out. So let me see. You see that? I'm just really working that out. So reflexology is where you use like finger point pressure and you kind of hold and you kind of draw across. So it's almost like a deep muscle related kind of exercise. See that? Are you guys doing this? Does that feel good? It's okay if yours is not tender. It's still supportive of the adrenals. And then you switch sides. You do the same on this other side, the other hand. Okay. So for me, there's certain points like this right side's really, really tender. And you just work it out. And it's just this whole area right here. That's your adrenal gland. And you just work it out. Yeah, so forever grateful. Wow, that really is tender. Yeah. A lot of times we don't even realize it until we start working. And there's an ovarian point. I won't show you today because it's on the ankle, but there's an ovarian point that, oh my gosh, we can send people off the table. It's so intense. And like, it is all related. Oh, I have a little bug. It's all related to ovarian function. Maria says, hi, Doc. Can you do a reflexology live chat in the future? I think it will be a great stress relief session during those times. Well, that's actually what I'm doing today. So, all right. So just swirl this, kind of work it out. And so I'm going to use my thumb, really get in there. You guys might hear my fingers cracking, but really, really, it's intense. So reflexology. That's actually how we started working with Serena Williams. And I don't know if you guys, here, let me show you. I don't know if you guys can see that. See her up there? That's me and Serena right there. A picture, YouTube. That's actually how I started working with her initially. And then it was after her surgery and I started doing lymphatic work. And it was quite an amazing time. They had a film crew coming with her one of the times because they were filming the documentary that HBO put out. Pretty phenomenal. But that is how she found our work in the reflexology world. But yeah, so I just work this out. Yeah, so everybody wonders. And you can't see, that's one of our bags. She had it signed it for us. Let's see. Okay. So just really, depending on how intense this is, like my right side's really, really intense. I will work this out later. But this is something that you can, if you're feeling stressed or you kind of feel like there's intensity, just really work that out. That also too, if you notice your heart's racing, your mind's going, you've got a lot of kind of anxiety building up, the adrenals, that's the easiest thing that you can target. You can just kind of do like this, just pinch or press in or grab with your thumb and just hold for like 5 to 7 seconds and then switch. And this will just ease your adrenals. And I don't know if you're feeling this kind of sense of peace, but it is very engaging with your body. And if you do that several times throughout the day, that helps to calm the adrenals down. Okay. Maria, does that help with carpal tunnel buildup? It's in that there is a zone in there, but this is more reflexology where I'd want to be moving fluid and moving lactic acid buildup. but it can be very, very helpful. Okay, so lots of cute emojis. All right, so that is the adrenal reflexology. And so this area right here on the inside, just below your thumb, these are your adrenal points. So when we are in fight or flight, which we're all in right now, this reflexology point is a point we need to address. Okay. Okay. And I might shorten that and cut that down, put it on IGTV. It's a lot easier for me to edit on my phone. Okay, so that is that one. The next one that I want to do is the Thymus Tap. Okay, so I might have to move Instagram down a little bit. Let's see if we can do that so you guys can see. Okay, so all right, so we're going to locate, and YouTube, I'm going to pull the mic because it's going to be loud. So I'm just going to put you all right here, and you should be able to still hear me. Okay, so your thymus gland, you kind of want to locate like right kind of mid-chest. That is where we have a gland. It's called the thymus gland. It's directly connected to our immune system. When we're babies, that's actually bigger than our heart. And a long time ago, it's terrible. They used to radiate little babies' thymus glands. And so there are a whole bunch of grown adults that had impaired thymus glands. Well, they don't do that anymore. But as we age, we get older, we don't need the thymus gland as much as we needed it because of immunity. So it's there to calm the baby. It's there to bolster their immune system. And for us, it's also a calming agent. And so it can calm and relax the body, but also powerfully boost the immune system. So if you guys love this, please give me a thumbs up. Hit that thumbs up on YouTube. Same here on Instagram if you're liking this. So the Thymus Tap that we're going to do, you can tap with your fingers together, or you can kind of make a fist and like really tap. It works more effectively if you're doing full-on Tarzan tapping like this. So this is what I do. It's very forceful. It's very forceful. You're going to kind of hear like, it seems like you're beating quite a bit on your chest. It's totally okay. You're not going to stop your heart. If you have a pacemaker, that tends to be an area where they might put it. So I'd be careful with that. But for most everybody, even folks that have, kind of surgical lines there, it's okay. It's not going to hurt you. It might even help with scar tissue. But you literally just tap for about 10 to 15 seconds. And you just do that tap, 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 tap. Keep breathing. And what you're going to notice is once you're done with it, once you stop, you're going to feel a vibration. That is invigoration. You've just invigorated your thymus gland and you woke it up. You're saying, wake up, thymus gland, wake up, wake up, wake up. And that is getting it motivated. That's getting it to start to release good chemicals. It has direct communication with our hypothalamus and our pituitary gland. And you're going to notice that vibration. Are you guys noticing the vibration? It doesn't hurt, I promise, Linda. I gorilla slap my chest every night before bed. I love it. So Instagram, loving that. We've got about a minute and a half on Instagram, and then I'll pick you back up because the next step that I want to share is some of the lymphatics, because I feel like we're also holding a lot. We're holding a lot up here. And I know a lot of people have been complaining about cervical issues, neck, like upper shoulder issues, because it feels like we're holding the weight of our world on our shoulders. Okay, so Karen says, that's wild, the vibration. Yeah, isn't it? And it's really like, it is bizarre. And you're like, whoa, you don't feel that until you get vibrating, and it's humming. And so I feel mine vibrate for maybe 10 seconds, 10, 12 seconds. But then I just feel it like it's like it's got more vascularity. It's pretty amazing. So let's do that one more time, friends. Okay, so we're just going to do a thymus tap. I did it for about 12, 15 seconds. And just think about like all the balancing, every aspect that you need, balancing, stress relief, muscle, tension relief. And then also any of those areas you want your immune system invigorated. Just think about all of that. Direct that thymus gland to really have power over your healing. It's very, very powerful. I love it. Sometimes I also break up congestion that might be in my bronchs. Okay, so Instagram, you guys are going to cut off in about 12 seconds. So I will pick you back up on the other side while I get mic'd up and I save this. And then next we're going to do a DIY lymph draining. Okay. All right. So I'll see you over there on the other side. Okay. So Instagram just cut off. Let me in now. We're going to save that. Yay. I can save it so I can edit it. Okay. Shared a story and let's bring them back up. Okay. All right. Welcome back, Instagram. This is part 2 of our live morning show. I just shared with you some DIY ways to address your adrenal glands to support those by Reflexology, and also shared with you gorilla style tapping, Tarzan type of tapping to improve your immunity and also really relax and calm your body via the Thymus Tap. Next up, I want to share with you some lymphatic draining of the head and face. So it is helpful if you use an oil. It just is a little bit more, especially with the face, it glides a little bit more. You don't necessarily have to do an oil. I just prefer it because our skin on our face is a little bit more fragile. So my oil of choice is it's Indie Lee, and it's her daily vitamin infusion. So I just am imparting some good nutrition back into my skin. Sometimes I'll use camellia oil. It's a Japanese oil. It tends to be really good for facial work as well. But I just am going to do like 2-3 drops, nothing major. And let me just get that back in. Okay. So then what I do is I get the oil, coat it on my fingers, okay? Because that really is what we're going to be targeting. So just kind of swirl the oil here. And what I want to do is I want to open up what we call the lower lymphatics, so of the head and neck. So I want to do kind of a swirling fingers, pointer fingers, and right kind of where, like, you see right here where your clavicle is, just move up a little bit. There's a little space right here. And these are called the watersheds. That's a drain for the lymphatics. I want to open those up first. Okay, so I want to open that. And then I want to go like this down here. And then I want to coat the oil. Just coat the oil a little bit on your face. And then what we're going to do is kind of use two hands. The one hand you're going to move up. So from mid-chin up to the ear, behind the ear, and then down. So you can do this collectively. So you can have one that kind of moves up, the other one moves down, or you can just do one. I'm kind of used to doing both. So this is a way of draining the lymphatics in the neck. And so what happens is you basically make a 7. And what I want to do with the lymphatics, you want to open up things below where you're targeting. So it's kind of like clearing out a drain. You clear it out so that when you open up the water, the drain's empty and it can flow out. So what we're doing is we're just opening up underneath here. Okay, we're going to move this. And so it's literally just traveling up to the ear and down, up to the ear and down. Then you can make little 7s. This is good for any of you who have a lot of fluid retaining in and around your thyroid gland. Very powerful. Now, next up, we're going to target the sinuses. Okay, so how we're going to do it, you can do 2 fingers, 1 finger. I'm not flicking anybody off, but usually I use my middle finger. But what you do is you go to the corner and go down to the ear and then down. So you just kind of do a swirl. So just kind of follow your cheekbones up to the ears and then down, okay? And that will get some of the fluid moving. I always get drainage. Okay. And you can concentrate. You can go like this. Like, let's say you've got puffiness, because I know a lot of people complain of puffiness. If you, like I use moisturizer every morning and evening, if you employ this while you're applying your moisturizer, you're going to give yourself lymphatic drainage. And you're going to apply your moisturizer and you're going to de-puff the eyes. So I get a lot of people asking, how are my eyes not puffy? I do this every day, even though like I feel like I'm at my puffiest right now. It's because of the allergies and we're outside spreading mulch all day. But this, you can drive this down, you can drive this up, you can get really focused, you can get to that corner of the eye, and you can just be really gentle under here and just move that down. Same thing over here. So what you're doing is you're going to the corner of the eye and moving past that cheekbone and then down, okay? All right, so this is very powerful. This also, as we've opened up the ears, if you did those sequence before, for all of you new on Instagram joining the part 1 of this sequence, I show how to open up and clear out the eustachian tubes. We did some other activities, just kind of calm. This is all about stress relieving DIY. And you can really, really, really minimize just the experience of stress that you feel like you're holding in your face. And this oil, I use Indy Lee's for vitamin infusion. Sometimes I'll use camellia. So the next thing that you do is come up here. Okay, now this point, this is a major point. What you're going to do is just do kind of flutters. Okay, flutters here. And try, if you can, just relax those muscles while you're doing this. Because this also becomes like that kind of face yoga. Okay, so you do flutter, 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 and then you kind of go around your eyebrows, then down to here, and then down, so you go draw down to the ear, and then down the neck. So you do flutter, flutter, flutter. You do several of these. Down to the ear, you sometimes get ear popping, and then drive down. Really, really good. And this can be very powerful at easing muscle tension, headaches, sinus headaches, allergy related aches. You can do a little swirl here just to kind of open up the ears and swirl down. How's everybody feeling? Are you guys liking that? Do you notice some nasal drainage? And then sometimes I'll also finish up with a little Himalayan salt. I mentioned that before, just because for me, this would be the alternative. This is my alternative to taking an allergy medicine. This is how I keep everything moving, how I keep my sinuses clear, how we deal with the pollen. Let's see. Marietta, good morning, everybody. Wow, I need to ask you, Dr. M, what does it mean when I feel tightness and coldness exactly where the thymus is located? Can I use some kind of C cream or balm there? Oh yeah, you absolutely could. You could use the 3-letter herbal. I think also just keep invigorating it. We want to get that circulation. Over time, you'll notice a difference. Like I do this every day. I do it kind of not even thinking about it. Like if I'm on a stoplight, when we used to drive around a lot, I would just tap, 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 and just get it moving. Very, very powerful. Okay, so everybody's loving that. Christine, yes, I clear my head on a regular basis. It's how I found you. Yay, a few years ago. Fantastic. Ingrid, Sandy, okay, excellent. All right, so very, very clearing. And you can do this anytime you feel like you're getting that kind of congestion or puffiness. And it works well in the morning and in the evening. And the other thing too is you notice my skin's getting a little red. You also enhance your circulation. That's good for collagen. It's good for improving the nutrients to your skin. So that's why I like to use nutrient dense. Like the camellia oil is really rich in vitamin E. It gets my skin a little itchy, but very, very powerful at moving the lymphatics. And that's just a really kind of general version of the lymphatic drainage massage. I actually detail this more in other videos on YouTube, but I wanted to do that this morning. Let's see. Stacy says, how do you know if the thymus is dead? Well, generally it's not, although a dead gland would actually decrease in size and be a health problem. A lot of times we can do scans to see the size of the thymus, just like any of the other scans. Let's see. So needed this. Thanks, Doc. Breathing a lot better. Yay. Can we search Church of Melissa? You guys are so cute. Let's see. Anita. How's Anita doing? Is she on here, you guys? Anita's our favorite trucker. Let's see. How's she doing? Let's see. We have Ruth. Hey, Ruth. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Oh, this is a good question. So Susan Elias Couture. What about small businesses? Do we go back to helping people in close contact in retail? That's an excellent question. So again, going back to this, I feel like so calm. Especially too, this is the other thing. This level 4, it starts cooling. And so you just start feeling like this cooling effect. This is the equivalent of your at-home spa. I love it. And I love this stuff too. The Himalayan salt inhaler. Oh, so good. Okay, so I want to address lots of questions here. Okay, so Sharon, waiting to start Tarzan call. That's cute. Okay, so that specific question about small businesses. Let's see, did I lose it? So really what it's going to depend on is your area and your state. And then also depending on what so like as a business, so, I run a business, but I'm not in charge of our clinic where I operate out of. So, if it were me again in that seat, and yesterday, if you want my background, I kind of tell you all, I answered a question from Jenny from the block and basically tell you how I got to today. But in the past, I've had facilities and staff and, retail and services we provided. What I would be doing is I would be looking at the type of population that are my customer profiles. In the work that I do and we've done in that type of setting, they're highly vulnerable individuals. So I would look at something that would be different. And it might be like, I know that also the other thing too is businesses have to pivot. We have to change the way we are operating business to cater to our patients, our clients, and our customers. And as fast as you can pivot is your survival. And so I see this with several of my favorite local brands. One, my gym pivoted literally a week. They went from like, well, we're not sure, we might close for a few weeks, to we're going to go online, to we set up a private Facebook group. We've got all online classes, to you can pick up all your stuff. We'll now even mail it to you. Because initially they were thinking, well, maybe we'll just set up the spin gym outside, like in the parking lot. So they own the whole space and they could social distance like 20 feet, have these little bikes and then our little station, and they could sanitize it. Well, when that became clear that they couldn't do that, they pivoted and they're doing okay. There are other gyms locally that I have friends that go to that haven't, and I know they're in trouble. So similarly, like my favorite little coffee shop, they've transitioned. They have a ton of retail, and so they actually hand delivered this. So I got my crazy love. Usually I go there and get this beautiful hibiscus tea. Instead, I just bought a whole bunch of jewelry online. They posted online, like these I got from them. And I spent a lot more than I would normally spend on my $6 purple tea, but I'm supporting them and I love them. And I love that they pivoted. So if you can pivot as a business, a small business, you are more apt to be successful in this downturn. So for instance, we had to postpone our wedding. I am still, all of everything. I got down literally the day of our cancellation was like my last fitting. And we had a few little alterations to make, but I mean, like things were fitting perfectly. And one of our dresses, so I have two outfits. One is a dress, the dress, and it's a really higher end couture dress. And the place that I bought this from, the boutique in Tampa, they have pivoted. They are doing online sales. They are, they've set up a space that is safe for women to go and try on. Because you start to think like clothing, nobody wants to try on. You know, you don't want to put anything over your face with somebody else's viral load. So they've kind of altered in their methodology. They also had a ton of retail that they're starting to offload. So all the accessories, you know, veils and things like that, that we can easily go online and see, or we've tried on before, we can buy. So they're pivoting. But, you know, the big question is, how do you pivot? And I think we're going to see this also. Like there are, you know, there is a chef that has a food truck, but she also has moved to delivering vegetables. And so her normal produce orders, she is maintaining, but instead of using it for her food truck, she's feeding us and she's delivering them safely to our door. And so we get fresh produce every day, every week. She offloads her normal order. So she hasn't canceled with their local farms. The local farms are supported. So it's just a little pivot. Same with the one farm locally. Normally they have their annual veggie produce sale where you get the little seedling, you know, the new baby veggies, and you go and you get it. Well, they pivoted real fast and they went online. And I mean, it was easy. It was like a Google Drive doc, and it was like, yep, I want blah, blah, blah. And it literally posted what was available and, you know, how many quantities. And, you know, we got some heirloom veggies, and the pickup was really easy, you know, way far distance maintained. They had all the right PPE. They opened up by trunk. Only one person put it in, and off we go. We saw goats and we saw sheep on the farm. That's a pivot. So, you know, I think the point, or ask about like, when do people start opening in retail again? I think we're looking at phase 2 or phase 3, to be honest with you. And again, there's no timeline. And it's going to vary based on your area. And it's also going to vary based on how well it looks like the governors can get testing. I've been seeing reports about Sean Penn in California. He's pumping out major testing. He has a company, I think it's called Core, C-O-R-E. And they go into Relief Works. So this is not his like first rodeo show, but they go in and they're putting out tons of testing. That's going to be critical. The faster we can get identified who has it, who's had it by antibody tests, we can move on with our normal lives, and we can protect those most vulnerable. And also we can make decisions for ourselves based on how to be healthy. But like this phase, I mean, I just don't like close common areas where personal are likely to congregate and interact. That's a retail setting. So that's phase 1. Continue to keep that closed. Telework whenever feasible. Phase 2. I just don't see retail opening up until you know, maybe phase 2 where they're saying 50 people. Excuse me. I don't know. So again, I think that just remains to be seen. Okay, so Elizabeth, I'm extremely sick to my stomach. My work, dental hygiene in Florida, wants me back May 11. Too soon. I can't even shop in Walmart with anxiety. How will I do this? I know. I feel you. So that Florida, where in Florida, Elizabeth, are you? So this is what we need to know about Florida. Florida's governor, Florida, oh God, it's ridiculous. So he's not employing anything to really lock down and help people. We're not seeing a Spring Hill. Okay, I know Spring Hill. Yeah, so you've got a good amount of vulnerable people, and so your patient profile is going to be a profile that is going to need to be assessed by the doctor, the dentist. So the question would be, did your dentist get any of the small lending? Did they get access to, the CARES Act money? That's question number 1. If they didn't, that's probably one of the reasons why they're pushing May 11th. I don't know. I got to look into that. And I'll message some of my friends that are in business down there. I don't know what May 11th date. I know we have like dates that get thrown out, and what that has to do with it. It might even very well be a fiscal date for the dentist that they need to get money coming back in. Yeah, so mainly 70s and 80s. Corporation, oh geez, not proper PPE. So this is where we have to harken back to. Okay, so even this is like void of any type of major actionable plans and quantitative data. The fact that you would not be prepared with PPE is counter to, the plan. And so protect health and safety of workers in critical industries. That's a critical industry. Dental work is critical. Frontline. That's you're in the health world. My question would be right now, I'd start asking and probably contact HR if it's a big corporation and ask, what are the plans? So if you're opening May 11th, and what are the plans? Will we have PPE? What are the protocols? Because this is showcasing onus on the employer. So let's go straight to it. So they're going to open back up, which by the way, Florida will not have passed the gating, this initial requirement of testing, isolating, contact tracing. We all kind of know that, right? The question would then be on employers. Phase 1. Okay, so and they might be, so this is where I don't know the type of dentistry, but there's the essential, here it is, elective surgeries. So a dental procedure might be deemed an elective surgery, so implants or tooth removal, that might be considered, depending on the degree of dental work that your dentists are doing. So in that type of case, and it says clinically, as clinically appropriate on an outpatient basis at facilities that adhere to the CMS guidelines. So CMS, what I would do is I would just, and you notate, document everything, have an email stream documented, list out your questions, list out, according to the new guidelines of opening up America. I'm curious, what are our new guidelines? How are you going to be protecting our, the staff? Are you, is there a plan to adhere to the CMS guidelines, so that you start notating it if you have to pull the plug in terms of being on site on the 11th. The other thing that I would do in preparation for that, and we did this with Brian, is you need to start to plan if you are potentially at risk or vulnerable. And in the categories they have listed here very clearly, the appendix, vulnerable individuals are folks with high blood pressure. Do you have any history of high blood pressure that's documented that maybe a doctor's note puts you in a vulnerable category? Now you've got a situation where the request is that the employer, let me go back to this, strongly consider special accommodations for personnel who are members of a vulnerable population. If you are able to identify that, so serious underlying health condition include high blood pressure, chronic lung disease, diabetes, obesity, asthma, immune compromised. So if you fall into that category, I would start documenting and definitely start communicating with HR or whomever they have in place. Maybe it's the, let's see, what would be the name of the person there? It would be somebody that would be in charge of, not quality control, but there should be somebody apart from HR that would be doing it. And maybe it's just the office manager or whoever's in charge of the operations part of it. And they're open for emergencies. Okay, so I see 2009 BA. I sit so close to my worker, I feel it's inappropriate to my environment conditions. So in that type of situation where it isn't social distancing, and again, this is going to be really hard, like cubicle world or even, tellers, we're just not built right now operationally for social distancing. So, the big thing would be, I would be diffusing. I'd have a work diffuser and get one of these where they've got the USB. I'd be diffusing an immunity blend. I would be for sure wearing mask and some sort of clear kind of eye goggle. Okay, HR specialist. So, I would definitely take the measures to protect yourself, and then for sure have tons of hand sanitizer, just really, really very cognizant of spraying that down. I don't, and that might be something, again, these might be conversations that employees need to have with their employers. I'll tell you a story, and then I know we're at over an hour and a half, but I'll tell you a story of yesterday. So you guys know, for all of you who've been watching on the live, Daisy, our cute little younger puppy, she keeps jumping the fence, and we have an electric fence. We've had it fail for multiple reasons. Somebody cut it when they were out at the electrical box. Our cable guy cut it. I mean, it's been a mess, but it's not working, and she keeps jumping over the fence to see our neighbors, see our neighbor kids. They all love her. They love all of them, and she wants to jump on the trampoline with them, and then she runs after deer. Well, yesterday I'd had it. She ran out the gate right in front of me, and I had to drive around the car, and she stops and runs in the car, but she goes on these excursions, and it's not safe. And it's stress-filled, and I had it because we were delaying on calling the fence company because we knew somebody would have to come into our space and engage with her. And I really wanted to limit that exposure for all of us. So I got them on the phone. I was very, very frustrated and told them, look, I need somebody out here today. She keeps jumping the fence. It's unsafe because she's having more social interaction than any of us have. All of the dogs, like Mina's roping them into throwing her the ball. But I called them and I said, and they asked, we'll get somebody out today, but we have some questions, the viral questions. And I answered them and I said, okay, well, I have questions for you. You're coming into my space. I have the same question. What type of contact has the individual had? Are they wearing a mask? Are they wearing gloves? Because if they're going to come in, they're not coming into my house. Our box is in here and we can do a phone chat to undo the box or whatever. And if you're going to engage with my dog, I'm going to leave my dog out there. I'll put a leash out there and we want to have limited contact. And she was like, oh, I don't think she has gloves, and she may or may not have a mask, but we're not doing that. And that again is like that Pike's Nursery here locally, who was really blasé about the fact that nobody was wearing masks or gloves. This showcases companies have onus, and we're already seeing, these the lawsuits beginning with these long-term care facilities. Companies are going to be liable. So I think it's really important that we have these conversations with, your boss, management, HR, and document, because it is risk. It's a risk if they are not going to actively supply you with masks and things like that. We need to make sure that you've documented that. And then also, the big thing that they're saying is that they don't want anybody to be fired. Well, sometimes we need to make that documentation for that. So the other employees don't do that, and we sit so close I can go on with all my ands. Yeah, I totally get it. I'm immune suppressed, but take D3, K2. Don't get sick unless sleep deprived. Yeah, so definitely, fortify your immune system, lots of thymus tapping, control your stress. Watch a lot of our live videos here because I really highlight a lot of that. But yeah, I told Brian, and he was like, I heard the whole conversation, because I was not only livid that Daisy keeps jumping the fence, but the fact that they wanted to protect their employee from us. We've been at home. I'm like, your employee is going all around to all these homes, and I know other people are not being as diligent as us, and so we have the right to ask you. I turned the table on them. And it's really, really important. So Darlene says, I rebound while watching news. I started 5 minutes up to 20. Yay. That's so fantastic. Okay, so friends, I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, if you want to kind of if you joined late, here on YouTube, it'll be back up on the replay. On Instagram, it'll be up live. You can watch. There's 2 parts to it, and I give you some DIY ways to relieve stress. But most importantly, I go over this supposed guideline for getting back to normal, which is there's a lot of holes, a lot of lack of data, quantitative guidance, and nowhere near any type of testing strategy. And if we look at the other countries that are doing okay, it's because they had better testing. So that's critical. All right, so friends, I will see you tomorrow, Saturday morning, 9 a.m. I have a fun shirt I'm going to showcase, and I will come back and link all the links. So you can grab the level 4 cream here in our clinic, as well as some of these other items I highlighted. So thanks, everybody. I hope you have a fantastic Friday and relax. Do these exercises again, de-stress, do them right before bed, and I promise you'll have great, great sleep. All right, friends, thanks again for tuning in. I'll see you guys later. Bye. Thanks, YouTube. I appreciate your time. I will see you guys tomorrow, bright and early, 9 a.m. I'll see you then. Bye, everybody. See ya.